Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we're going to be looking at Giratina Ultra Sworn potential in the Great League. As you know, October is just around the corner, and there's potential, hopefully, at least I'm hoping, that Giratina will be in research boxes after Flower Crown Eevee's stay is over. And the question, if that does occur, the question on people's mind is, will Giratina break the Great League? So let's go ahead and take a look at some perspectives around it. So let's first take a look at its stats. Its overall stats are 187 attack, 225 defense, and 284 stamina. Its Great League maximized stats, maximized for overall product, is 104.7, 128.3, and 158. And it's the 23rd overall highest productive stats. But what does that mean? Like, how is that good? Is that bad? 23rd, it sounds pretty good, but are there any comparables? Yes, there are some comparisons. The two closest comparisons are the first two, which are Dewgong and Noctowl, which have very similar stat distributions. Dewgong with a 100, 137, 161, and then Noctowl with a 104, 121, and 171. Other Pokemon that have similar bulkiness, but different distributions on what's assigned to stamina and defense are Lapras and Lantern. Two Pokemon really known for their bulkiness, and one of the reasons why they're so good in the Great League. So from a Great League statistics point of view, its stat distribution is great, not super incredible, but very positive and should be known as a bulky Pokemon when it comes to the Great League. Next, we're going to be taking a look at Giratina's fast moves and charge moves. We see that Dragon Breath is more known as, it's both Dragon Breath and Shadow Claw are fairly balanced moves, but their energy per turn and damage per turn are essentially flipped, and Dragon Breath is a one-turn move as opposed to Shadow Claw being a two-turn move. And because they're flipped, it depends if you prefer the damage from Dragon Breath, which we all know from using Altaria can really add up even when resisted, versus using Shadow Claw for its energy generation, which we see when we look at Pokemon like Sableye, where it can really spam a lot of moves using that Shadow Claw energy generation, but still do a decent amount of damage. So these are both really high caliber, high quality moves that both benefit from same type attack bonus from Giratina's typing. Its charge moves include the ever spammy Dragon Claw, which only requires 35 energy. Which means that it only requires five Shadow Claws or 10 turns to get to a Dragon Claw, and it still has 5 residual energy, which means that the next Dragon Claw will come even sooner. And it does only 50 damage, so a moderate amount of damage, but it is after same type attack bonus. It is Giratina's most energy efficient move, which is pretty amazing for being a 35 energy move. And it also has access to Ancient Power, which does 70 damage for 45 energy at a 1.56 DPE. There's no same type attack bonus, but does have a chance to boost both defense and attack by 2 stages. And we all know once a Pokemon gets boosted, it becomes this nearly unstoppable machine. And because of Giratina's ability to generate energy really quickly, getting a boost really early on will basically turn the tides of the match completely to the user of the Giratina if there's no hard counter. And then Shadow Sneak, which does 50 damage, 45 energy, has a 1.1 DPE, 1.32 after stab. So not a really great move, but could be useful in times when both Dragon Claw and Ancient Power are resisted, like for example Steel type Pokemon that both where the Steel typing resists both Dragon Claw and Ancient Power. So pretty good move set. There's not really any comparables in terms of Pokemon with the same types of moves. Dragonite has both Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw, but doesn't have Shadow Sneak or Ancient Power or have Shadow Claw as a fast move. Maybe closest comparable in terms of actual functionality is Sableye, where it has very spammy movesets, where it can really do. You're mostly looking for shield pressure, and it doesn't have like great closing move. Like you're not gonna. There's very few Pokemon that you're gonna be able to just take out with one shot or take out 3/4 of its health, and there's very little shield baiting associated with this one. It's just basically spamming the charge moves as quickly as possible. So a little bit, especially with Power Gem and Foul Play kind of being similar to Dragon Claw and Ancient Power if you're stuck in some particular situations, but mostly spamming movesets and no strong closing moves. So let's take a look at Giratina's typing, both Dragon and Ghost. It makes it weak to Dark, Dragon, Fairy, Ghost, and Ice, but has many resistances. Has resistances to Bug, Electric, Fighting 2 times because of the Ghost typing, Fire, Grass, Normal because of the Ghost typing again, Poison, and Water. So it has pretty long list of resistances, which is going to make it useful when one of the typings are allowed in the cup. Do they have like good chemistry in terms of typing? I would say no, and you'll see that in terms of the resistances that there's not. I don't think maybe there's not even any overlap in terms of they kind of like just add on to each other as opposed to stack or counteract. For example, Ghost is weak to Dark and Ghost, while Dragon doesn't cover necessarily any of those ones. And then Dragon's weak to Dragon, Fairy, and Ice. So again, we're looking at where both its resistances and weaknesses don't have good synergy in terms of covering each other, but in a meta where they potentially allow other types. Let's say, for example, it's like Dragon, Ice, Fire. Then Giratina's Dragon typing. Well, I guess that actually doesn't matter. So ignore what I just said there. There's not great synergy in its typing, but it does mean that there's a wider variety of what it's vulnerable to, and a wider variety of what it has resistances to. So there's no comparable Pokemon in the current Great League. Its Dragon Ghost typing is very unique, but there is going to be a lot of Ghost types in Gen 5, so we might see a comparable. No, I can't think of one off the top of my head. The only other comparable would be Origin Form Giratina if it does come in research boxes. In terms of its matchups, so the moveset we're going to be looking at is Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw, Ancient Power. I think, in my opinion, that's the best overall moveset, and it's really leverages Giratina's ability to spam charge moves. And when we look at it in even shield scenarios, at 0 shields, 1 shield, it says 1 shield, but it should be 1 shield, 2 shields, you'll see that Giratina progressively gets better as it uses more shields, since it's going to be able to spam charge moves unshielded as it goes on. And it makes sense that it doesn't perform that amazing at 0 shields because it doesn't have great DPE in terms of its charge moves. So, and when we compare it to the meta for Season 1 regionals, which includes Pokemon like Azumarill, like Bronzong, like Altaria, it doesn't include every Pokemon that's available. We'll see that even in the restricted meta, you'll see at 2 shields it has 82.6%, which is quite amazing. But how does that compare against another Pokemon, a similar type Pokemon? Or not similar type Pokemon, similar performance Pokemon, a Pokemon that gets better as more shields progress. So that Pokemon is Medicham. So when we take a look at Medicham's performance versus the overall all Pokemon available in Season 1 regionals, the numbers are pretty similar. Medicham is worse in all categories and against the meta, but it has very similar type performances where as shields progress. In this case, Medichamp's ability to spam. It doesn't really rely on hard-hitting moves. It could have Psychic, it could have Dynamic Punch, but generally the preferred moveset is Counter, Power Up Punch, and Ice Punch, so more of a spammy type moves, and actually pretty similar energy requirements for those moves as compared to Giratina. But you'll see that Medicham, which is a pretty amazing Pokemon in Great League, performs worse as a percentage of wins in both the all Pokemon and restricted down to the meta, but pretty comparable performance where it's really good with shields up and not so great when shields are down. When we take a look at particular matchups, I looked at basically the top 10 and I included some Pokemon that I thought were very common in Great League. We'll see that it picks up wins against Medicham. That Shadow Claw damage is going to be super effective. It's going to resist Power Up Punch and Counter. It's going to be weak to Ice Punch, but without a boosted Ice Punch, it's not going to really do that much damage. It beats Venusaur. It resists all of Venusaur's moves. It beats Deoxys quite badly as well because it double resists the counter damage. Psycho Boost is probably going to be the charge move that you want to use, but it's going to be dealing super effective damage, and as well as Dragon Claw, and it's quite tanky as well in itself. It beats Skarmory when it has the Shadow Claw movesets. It beats Lantern, it beats Haunter, it beats Tropius, it beats Swampert, it beats Lucario, it beats Hypno, and even Lucario landing an unshielded Shadow Ball actually does much less damage than you would expect. But it loses to Altaria when it has Shadow Claw, but can beat Altaria when it has Dragon Breath, just because Giratina, past the Zero Shield scenario, because Giratina has access to Dragon Claw, which is cheaper energy or less energy than Sky Attack, and that super effective damage is going to allow it to win out that match. It is going to lose against Umbreon and against Sableye, so that's something you have to consider. It does beat Haunter, but that's something you'll have to consider and factor in. And it loses to Bastiodon. And then it wins or loses to Azumarill, depending if Azumarill depends on the shield scenario, and as well if Azumarill is carrying Ice Beam or not. And then it actually has more favorable matchups against the very popular variant of Lapras of Ice Shard, Surf, and Skull Bash, because it's going to resist Surf and then double resist Skull Bash. So we're going to certainly see in some situations where it's going to be actually be more favorable to carry Ice Beam instead of Skull Bash. So don't go ahead and TM all the way your Ice Beam Laprases just because Giratina is going to absolutely it's going to beat Lapras when it doesn't carry the Ice Shard moveset. And then Probopass, it kind of depends. It's like an iffy matchup depending on shields. That's why I kind of put it in the middle. And when we look at overall conclusion, it's Great League stats. I put it rated as 9.5 out of 10. It's fairly bulky, has really good distribution. In terms of its typing, I rated 9 out of 10. Its Ghost and Dragon typing don't have great synergy, but Dragon's typing obviously resists a lot of things, and then Ghost typing has that really ability to wall fighters and wall normal types. In terms of moves and matchups, as a lead, it's absolutely amazing. Like 9.5, really great. As more shields are available, Giratina is just absolutely gonna cause nightmares for your opponent. But as a closer, it's a pretty poor closer because its inability to do like 3/4 or full one shot a Pokemon. And I probably can't even one shot a Haunter for example. Its overall rating a 9 out of 10. It's gonna be one of the meta defining Pokemon. It's gonna be a Pokemon similar caliber as Medicham, Azumarill, Bastiodon, Altaria, all those really great League Pokemon. but it's not going to break the meta. It's in fact, I would say out of Great, Ultra, and Masters, Great League is its worst league, but it's still quite an incredible Pokemon, and certainly one that you should be requesting for trades once, if I don't know if it will be, if it's available in the Great League. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, future type Pokemon type videos, let me know down in the comment section below. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.